Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hot Takes League of Legends Edition. Just myself and Davide this week. Davide, how's it going?
Hello. Going pretty well. I guess someone is missing. This is decided to just not show up.
Despicable. Despicable.
Yeah.
No words. Let's jump straight into the news then, shall we? So there was one quick one that we can check off the list pretty swiftly was the BDS news that came out last night about a rebrand that straight away the news has kind of been memed into oblivion immediately. And I must have missed this, or it's just maybe it didn't make a big enough mark in my brain. But they did say like back in the summer that they were going to do a rebrand, or that there was going to be some kind of big change come in. And what's I guess awkward here is that there's news of the rebrand and some details of it without the full thing. So what has been said in a report already is that the new name, so they won't be called BDS Team BDS, they'll be called Shifters from now on. Which my first thought was like, this I'm sure nobody else has had this reaction to it, but it reminds me of like some like 50s jazz group. Like I think there's like a touring group that's from like the 50s or something that they refresh the members to keep going and going, called the Drifters, and it just makes me think of that. And that's not even me showing my age, because that's something that would be even for more like my nan or something. So I don't know how that got stuck in my head. But the more obvious joke that people have made straight away is how close it is to Shitters. So as soon as BDS have a little rough patch, then yeah, they're not Shifters. Well, not BDS. As soon as Shifters have a rough patch, then they are Shitters. Which seems like such an obvious misstep. And the best part is the marketing company that they've done it through. Apparently, they paid around 320,000 euros for the whole thing. What was your initial reaction, Davide?
I don't really know, to be honest. It's just weird to have this kind of stuff going out before, because I guess like the whole thing about rebrand is always to you want it to be like get surprised all at the same time. So like leaking a little bit of stuff before, but then like you already have like half of the community like reacting to it. And also apparently like I was going through like the Twitter comments, like and apparently there's like another team that's called Shift. So it's like there how you're going to like differentiate yourself across the different things, because apparently like BDS, there's like a Rocket League team named Shift. So what
Right.
if like Team BDS goes into Rocket League again, and then you have Shift against Shifter?
Yep. Not thought it through, I
So,
think.
I'm not really sure about that. I mean, I wonder if they're going to like stick to what they were saying last year about like making it a little bit more, like they had a vision about it, um, and whether that makes sense. Like it will make sense, because I feel like rebrands are very tough to do. What like well executed rebrands are always tough. And I don't think like BDS had the best branding, to be honest.
Like,
Among the
what is
LEC.
BDS? I don't know I never knew what BDS even meant.
Apparently like BDS is like the initials of the owner, if
Right.
I'm correct. Um, and then there was the whole thing that went on a couple of like 2 years ago, 1 year ago. I don't remember, but there's like the founder got like into controversy, for some comments, and apparently like they decided to make it a little bit more, uh
Independent, not like a
yes, I guess in the
influencer
more
team.
independent, but also just like have like a more inclusive branding that they didn't really wasn't really about just the founder itself. um but I don't know, it's just weird that it gets leaked out this way.
Because I don't think it was even because I saw it on Sheep Esports. They reported it, but it wasn't a leak from them either. It was it was them reporting on something that was in like I think was in Swiss news or something. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
find the thing now, and in that in the original article, someone from so someone from the team had comments in this original article. So it's not even like it's been leaked. Like they have openly talked about it, and it's just weird. Yeah, it's just really weird to do it like that because if it gets leaked, it gets leaked, and that's obviously unfortunate. But yeah, for the team or the org itself to like partly be having a part in releasing some of the information, like some of the details, but not the others, is just bizarre. Because, like you say, like the point of a rebrand, the point of wanting to have a good brand, especially like the name and logo, which would be like the most obvious things, and the reason that you pay like marketing companies a lot of money, like they've done, is because they're meant to have like insight into like how how that the parts of your brain work that react to these things and react to images
Yeah.
and first impressions and stuff. Which is why you end up some things like they'll pay like millions and millions for a rebrand, like we were just saying before we started about Xiaomi paying however many millions for their logo to be rounded on the corners. Like it's obviously looks ridiculous, but I guess like these people, at least they think they say or they think they've got some knowledge as to why it's worth doing it. So they know some like they've got to have some insights into how these things work, and it is all about like immediate impressions. When you see the logo, you see the name, and like instantly something clicks. And you'd imagine that would kind of be in tandem, or the brand as a whole would be the imagery is probably even the most important part uh, ahead of the name. I would have thought, to be honest. So getting a little bit of it without the rest, it just means that already everyone's got their own connotations of the new brand before the brand is even revealed. So it just seems a complete, complete stupid way to do it, really. Because now immediately everyone thinks of the shitters thing, and that's already the meme, and like that's definitely going to stick as well. There's no way that people forget about it. But maybe like I don't know, like if we'd have seen the whole thing together, maybe there's something in the imagery that would have not made you think of shitters. Although
Yeah.
I feel like that would have always come eventually anyway. But it may have been like not as immediate, at least that's like the only connotation everyone has straight away, because they've only released like part of it, which is just very very strange.
Like, I do understand it's hard to make a rebrand. Like, I remember when I was working with an Italian sports team called Novo. It was one of my previous experiences. When I joined, they already had like an initial like logo that they use, but then they kind of wanted to go like for a soft rebrand, and then we were like looking at the colors, the color scheme. We were looking at how the logo was shaped and stuff like that. So I know it's something that takes a lot of time, and you obviously want to like. It's not just about the logo itself. It's also about like the visual identity overall. You wanted to make it homogeneous. I'm not sure how you uniform in that sense. Um, and so it's like it's not just about the logo. At the same time, it's just that it's weird that they decided to call it this way, but then not really show or give hints, because otherwise, like now you're just left people questioning for like probably like another half a year, I would assume, or like a couple of months, because like oh sorry,
It's meant to be
um
this month apparently when
this
it comes out.
December. Okay, sorry. I mean, it's like you're now you're left with people questioning. What is it? Are we going to do about it until like next week? I would assume, or this week.
Yeah,
Just and also like the fact that it's called shifters. Just made me call like it made me recall the TFT trade shapeshifters, and probably some people have probably already mentioned it in the comments. Um, but like it's just some weird stuff.
it kind of sounds like you're trying to think of some um like some cool word like that might have something to do with video games, and it basically feels like a like kind of like a parody of a esports team
Hmm.
name, the Shifters or Shifters. Um, One thing this is in the Sheep article, and they have a quote from this guy Jocelyn Roux, who I think is the owner of
No, legal director.
Oh, okay.
The owner is Alejandro, I think. It's
Oh,
like
okay. My bad.
some different guy.
Oh yeah, it says it in here. So yeah, the legal director. So they've said that it's part of the goal of the rebrand is to give them a stronger local identity, which when like that sentence on its own would make you think that they'd try to go. Well, I guess it's a Swiss org, so like you'd think they're trying to do something to do with Switzerland and
Mm-hmm.
to give them a stronger ties there. Which obviously, like we see orgs where the localization does work. Like even aside from like KC and Koi that are like the big ones, where obviously they've got the the streamers attached to it as well. But even like Giant X to like broader LEC fan base might not seem like a big org, but like in the events in Spain, like they do have shitloads of fans localized there. Funnily enough, none of the old XL esports fans seem to make up their fan base. I wonder why. But so yeah, so that was the thing that I saw first of all as well. Like, I guess they're trying to do something in Switzerland, but then also it gives some like weird context to it as well. It says the current office building is set to be converted into housing, which accelerated the need for their relocation. Because it also says they've got a new facility that they're building in Geneva, and it's under construction, and they want to open it by the end of the year. So it sort of says like, oh yeah, it's part of the relocation to give a stronger identity as we move to Geneva, which makes you think, okay, they want to have it with a tie to Geneva. But then it also says, oh yeah, they're moving because their office is getting knocked down or getting converted, which doesn't really seem like something that would have an impact on your overall brand as an organization. You wouldn't do a rebrand just because you got to move office, would you? So it's a bit weird how I don't know if that's just maybe how it's been written up by Sheep or just some like marketing gobbledygook that they've been saying, just trying to give some sort of comments around it from this guy at BDS, but it just seems to like make no connection those things. So that was just a bit odd. So yeah, I don't know how they're planning to do that, because those localization efforts as well, like they work for the Spanish and the French orgs because those countries have like massive esports fan bases around League of Legends specifically. Like, is Geneva like a big hub for League of Legends? I'm not sure. But then I guess
And
it's
also
also a little bit
people,
of like a chicken and egg thing, because I don't know if like France was that much of like a mega country for League to the extent it is now. Before like Kometo came in and KC got so popular. And yeah, same with Koi as well. So I guess if they could make a popular team, that would probably push it a bit. But yeah, what are you gonna say?
I guess like it's the main goal is just to foster it now. Like I would assume that you want it because obviously Geneva is on the French side. It's like on the west side of Switzerland, and I know that like people speak both French, like they speak French as the main language there. So probably it's a little bit easier to then like you know cater to both, but also then just have like build a new generation of gamers and just esports fans, I would assume. It's
Yeah,
not like BDS is that bad, to be honest. Like we're not saying like it's that they have been like they have struggled to be like have good results over the past few years, but I think they've been progressively been getting a little bit better over time. It's just that we haven't seen BDS like I don't know, fight like KC or MKOI, like new orgs that came in and kind of like brought up their brands alongside their competitive excellence. So we just gotta wonder. I'm wondering like how that will fit with how they have been always seen in the LECC mainly, because that's where we know that the BDS brand comes from.
yeah.
Like is mainly focused on. Mm, but what do you think like, about the roster? Because obviously now they also had the major
Yeah.
like major shakeups. So I'm not sure if you want to cover about that as well,
Yeah,
but
good transition, Davide. Because the next thing we were going to do is have a run through the rosters, and we can do a bit of a review on the initial look now that pretty much everyone, well, or now that everyone is lined up. Now Ethan's not here, but we have got at least his write up where he did an article grading everyone out of 10, every team's off season, so we can kind of compare with that as well. Maybe just go through the order that's on here, so I don't have to scroll up and down 100 times. Um,
yeah,
So let's go Carmine Corp first then, which he's given an 8 out of 10. Surprise, surprise, he thinks that the French team have done well. But anyway, they've got, so just to clarify the team, Kana, Yike, Kalist are remaining, and then they've got, and I'm going to say it wrong again, Kyahu. I don't think it was actually said like that, but that's how it looks. In the mid lane, so he's an import from the Korean Challengers, and then you've got Busio coming in as support, and Reaper joining as head coach. I feel like
as a heads up, I just wanted to say, like, I feel like like Ethan has been very harsh with the ratings. Like, I didn't want to, as the editor, I didn't really want to like change it. I wouldn't probably have given such low grades, to be honest. But I mean, for Cameron Corp, definitely yes. I still think they arguably had one of the best off seasons. I'm not sure overall if I would have given the first like that by that margin, because like um, but I still think they came out on top with a decent roster.
yeah,
The main thing is not actually about their mid laner, because obviously I think like Yahoo was um pretty good in the LCK, but he wasn't like standing out for me. So mainly I'm just mainly looking at the value that Busa can bring in compared to like how Targamas was on the roster. And I think like Kalista Busio could be potentially one of the best bots. Like you could argue that they are gunning for, you know, top two, I guess, in the league. Um, just that by that alone. So I think like they definitely got got a major upgrade in the support. You could, I'm not sure like if it's like an upgrade in the mid lane, to be honest, in terms of like individual raw skills. Obviously, if Vladi and the stuff like that we were talking about how um he was causing internal issues, um it's always going to be a better choice. But overall, I think that Armin Corp would have probably gotten like still pretty good. Still pretty good off season. And definitely are looking like one of the strongest teams going to next season, which
yeah,
makes it, you know, makes it good to see, because what I think is being happening overall in the LEC is that we're starting to see stronger mid pack, which should technically, on the other hand, make top teams, if top teams end up dominating or like standing out, better over time. Um, it's something that we've seen a lot of times, even like in the LCK, like T1 Genji, Hanwha Life are dominating internationally because they also dominate internally, but like it's not like DK, Nongshim, Firax and teams like this are necessarily bad. They're just pretty good. It's just that the gap is even bigger.
yep,
So I'm really excited to see how KC performs. Um, I wouldn't say they are probably the best from the start, but like if they build up and with Reaper coming in as the head coach, I definitely see some potential to raise the raise the benchmark a little bit higher through uh stuff that's not really related about the players themselves, but more on the strategic side of things.
yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Reaper is like a really interesting one as well, and I think we said it before, like that KC, like they do make ballsy moves in these off seasons a few times. Well, they have done a few times since they've been in, which I think is pretty interesting. And Reaper, I think, is a good one where there probably his stock wasn't like, it certainly wasn't as high as it has been in the past, but like clearly he's also still like a proven winning coach, um, who also had strong impacts in terms of like team culture and things, like when like like going back again to when he like he did the big benchings like way back in the day on Cloud9. Like he's not afraid to to like discipline players and keep them in line, which obviously I know like the Vladdy thing from last year, there was like the extra complications with it where it was like seemed that Apples was not a good influence and maybe had been getting him into into bad habits, to say the least. And maybe a benching wouldn't have exactly solved that overnight, but at least he's a coach that like has proven that he's willing to do stuff and willing to take like strong actions to try and get things going the right way. Not to say that anyone left on the team now would necessarily have any issues, we don't know, but it's probably good in that sense as well. I guess the only question mark is like whether it turns out that Busio was playing so well because he was being like micromanaged by Inspired, perhaps. That's like the one thing I've seen. But if they're getting the Busio that we've seen on FlyQuest, then it certainly is an upgrade, I think. And also, I think another like underrated aspect of their off season is that they've sold Vladi for hundreds of thousands of euros as well, or like at least the buyout has said that it was a 6-figure buyout, which obviously the range there is massive. It could be from 100,000 to 999,000.
Yeah.
But seeing that Fnatic were willing to offer 6 figures also for Jun, which obviously would be at least 100,000, and I think the rumor was that it was around 100,000. If I was KC and I knew that they were offering 100,000 for Jun, and I knew they wanted to pay a buyout for Vladi, no way I'm accepting anywhere near 100,000. Like they would definitely have needed to cough up far more than that, I imagine. So the fact that they've made a decent chunk of money on Vladi as well is pretty good. Like they're playing Football Manager and actually selling their big guns. The only downfall is that you have to give Vladi to a rival, which at the end of the day, like he's still, if they can get him firing, he still would be one of the best mids in the league, which is dangerous. But obviously in the situation that he had on KC, it didn't really seem viable for him to stick around. So it makes sense they had to get rid of him. They've made a decent profit on him. So all in all, yeah, pretty solid off season. As long as Kiahu is not like a total failure, but if you're getting a career mid laner, then usually that works out all right. So let's see. I think 8 out of 10, probably fair. I think
we would probably stick to a 7, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like if we want to, I'm going to like be a little bit more. Like lowers are going to be a little bit higher, I guess, and highs are going to be a little bit lower, just to
maybe as well
just
because
to
I
give
feel
a
like Kiahu probably wasn't their first choice. Like there'd
yeah,
like a
no,
bunch of
like
rumors of mid laners come out.
like they really wanted Quid. It
Yeah.
was arguably like the best mid laner in the LCS. Oh, sorry, LTA.
No, it's LCS again. It's LCS again. You can
Yes.
say it.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's 2025 was LTA. So it's like it's not like it was their number one choice, I would assume, and like I said before, like he was playing on DRX, and DRX didn't really do much good last season, as a team. So you could argue that the individual skill is there. You just gotta wonder whether he will be able to transition that. I'm not questioning his ability to be like good among the LEC meets. I think it's just that I'm not really sure whether you can consider him as an upgrade over Vladi, or as a clear upgrade over Vladi.
Oh yeah, makes sense. Let's move on. So next up we've got Fnatic.
We already talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like this Fnatic roster shows how Fnatic has been over the past few years. They just like going with volatile rosters, I think.
Well, I
Like
feel like the one from the start of 2025 didn't feel like it was, or it didn't feel like it should have been that volatile either. It was like all big names apart from like maybe Oscar. But yeah, I get what you mean. And well, just to clarify the roster as well, so it's MP Ross top, and then Razork, Vladi, Upset, and Lospa in support, and Grabs is staying as the coach. I feel like so I feel like Vladi like. It's difficult because of course he had his issues clearly, but again if you get him back on good form, then it's an absolute coup, and it is someone that he's a very young player still, and if he gets back to how he was and then kind of goes on the trajectory that everyone expected from him, then actually this is a player where if they can lock him down and keep hold of him for a number of years, then that is like an incredibly good piece for them to have for many years potentially.
Yeah.
So that's good. Upset staying, I'm happy with that. I guess the thing with Razork is that like clearly Razork is even so just those three, and I guess yeah you're right in saying that there's like volatility there because clearly Vladdy is volatile, and then Razork can be among the best junglers in the league, but then can also have moments where he's clearly not, and that happened a lot last year, and there was the thing with him in Humanoid for many years that they can never seem to click. So it depends maybe what happens there as well. Like this, I'd say maybe Upset is the only one where you're like comfortable. You're getting like you kind of know what you're getting, I suppose, and you know you're getting a solid performer. 9 times out of 10, and then like almost every other piece is going to be a question mark because obviously there's the total rookies as well. So, yeah, I think a harsh rating is deserved. Not even just for even if you think the roster's turned out all right. Like clearly the off season was a mess. They were the last team to secure stuff, and there was and it was kind of all revolved around them getting Vladdy. It seemed. But we know that they'd bid for Jun and they got rejected, and there was a bunch of players that they wanted, and they were looking to maybe change ADC, and then we had the rumors of Vladdy joining, but then it would only be with Razork and not Upset, and they wouldn't play together, and then suddenly they will play together again. So some of that could just be the rumors. Maybe there's incorrect rumors that have flown around, and that's kind of poisoned the well in terms of how we look at this off season from Fnatic. But it certainly didn't seem like things happened smoothly, to say the least, or swiftly. So even just the process of it seems to have been quite messy. So I don't think a 4 out of 10 is horrible. Yeah, I don't know because they've had a messy off season, and also they've not ended up with a team that you're certain is a top team. Like I would have felt way more confident in Fnatic's lineup this time last year for sure.
Yeah, same. I mean, you could argue that for me, it's like Vladdy is definitely a big upgrade.
Yeah,
Obviously, you know that there's going to be question marks around his level, but when I'm just thinking about how he can play and how he wants to play the game is very similar to akin to how Razork wants to play it. My question that comes in now is two things, and then obviously it's a little bit of a speculation because we don't really know how the new season is going to evolve. But just thinking that Riot wanted to make the ADCs and top laners have more impact in the game, it makes me think that a player like Upset could potentially increase his value, because of how consistent he can be, and how much of how comfortable he usually is on DPS carries, hyper carries. It looks like the new season could potentially go in that direction. So I'm trying to be optimistic and positive about Fnatic's change, even though there's like tons of uncertainty around it. So I probably just would need to see a few games
yeah,
played here and there. Um, I would say like the upside is there, but also like the downside could be massive. So I'm
yeah.
still very
Same.
like uncertain.
Same. I'd give it probably about a 4 or 5, something like that, if I
Yeah,
had to grade.
4.5 would have been for me, I
Yeah.
think.
Right. Let's move on. Actually, I don't know where I remembered it, but just as I've scrolled down, I see that Ethan's got in here that the offer for June was around 200,000.
Yeah.
I may have been misremembering it, so then clearly like they must have paid a hefty bit more for Vladdy, I would guess. But yeah, anyway, Na'Vi, and Na'Vi's roster is main to top, Relek, Poby, Hansamdi, and Paris support, with The Rock coming in as head coach.
So I think I think Navi would have been my clear winner of the offseason, to be honest. Just because of the roster they've been be able to put together. I don't think they necessarily won it, but I just think they were the team that made the clear biggest upgrades. At least what is what I think. Because you have Relek, who should have played last year but had the visa issues as a Turkish player. He has been rumored as one of the best junglers from the LFL, and interesting ERL in general. And we know how like ERL junglers have performed over time. Like you just think about Yike, you just think about like other players that have come in, even Skumon. If you're really good in ERLs, you're not supposed to be bad, I would assume, in the LEC on tier one, as long as you're able to like fix some of that over aggressiveness that usually is given to you in the ERLs, but you cannot really make in the in top tier competitions. We got Maynard, who was arguably one of the best top laners as well in KCB. You got Poby, super stable mid laner, already proving his value, I think, and his worth on Fnatic last year. Hansam D is pretty solid, I think, from what I've seen. This guy also used to play in the LCK, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like he's inexperienced by any chance. And then some like the question mark was, I think, is indeed Paris. Like I think Ethan did a really good job pointing that out. Like we even expected Paris to be good last year on BDS, but he didn't really live up to the expectations. I think like everyone was hyping him up to be one of the best supports, if not the best supports in the league. Like over time, and he didn't really show that, I think. But definitely very promising roster. I think like Navi did a really great choice to, once you take over Rogue slot, you just not like, I wouldn't say like uh stay bad for like a split, but just like you just put together a roster that you think is somewhat competitive, but then you focus on rebuilding for the next season with, and once you have figured out like all the working process that's needed behind to running and operate an LEC team. So you don't have to worry about that, and you just focus on increasing the performance as much as possible. So I think like Navi has a clear view and it has like a clear uh direction what they're going to go with. I'm just wondering like whether that will be enough to like raise them above playoffs competition. Like I think they're a pretty good team. I'm not saying I don't, but I don't think they necessarily have immediately what it takes to fight for the top spots. But like even I think even getting like a playoff finish could be great for them. Like
Yeah.
would be a really great start for them
I think
considering like everything.
I'd agree like all the points really about the roster itself. Like yeah, it looks very promising. I think it's been kind of shrewd pickups for the most part, where they've not kind of come
Mm-hmm.
in and got any massive name, but all of the pieces do make sense. Like again, the question mark on Paris, but even then you think to last year, like I think there was a few teams like clamoring for him, and like it looked like a bit of a coup that BDS managed to end up being the ones to keep him. But yeah, obviously he didn't end up performing as well as people had expected. One thing I wonder on this is how expensive it is really, because when you see a team without like star names, you would imagine that they're not paying over the odds for this either. So it could look like it's actually a pretty good roster for the spend as well. But then also on the other end, if I imagine like certainly there were a few teams after Povey, and then when you got someone like Mainter coming in as not just as like one of the most kind of hyped ERL players, but also coming from KC
Mm-hmm.
Blue, which like now is becoming like the LEC player factory. So KC can kind of have already built up this recognition. I could see those two players having a lot of offers and being able to drive the salaries up a bit. Again, it wouldn't be crazy because they're obviously not like big names still, but obviously supply and demand. If there's a few teams after you, you get away with asking for a bit more. So I could see this being maybe a bit more expensive than it looks, but at the same time, I don't think. Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem like it's one of the bigger
Crazy
spending
expensive
rosters. Yeah,
rosters.
so they could
Yeah.
probably end up like pushing for playoffs or even maybe a little bit above it if the pieces do click without bending over the odds. So yeah, pretty good off season I think for them. 7.5 I think is fair, or yeah, maybe a bit more, maybe an 8. Because also there's
I
not
would have probably could put in an 8.
yeah, because I don't think even the question mark on Paris. I feel like you can even like you can explain it away a little bit. I guess like if you're a support, I feel like it can't be that easy coming in as a rookie support and then playing with a like he was playing with Ice obviously last year, um, and I feel like that could make it trickier, like to come in and play with a Korean laner where maybe you can't get the best communication going early, and as a support that would probably be quite an impact I would think. So maybe I'm giving him offering him an excuse too easily, but I could see how you kind of have the understanding that okay, maybe the first year wasn't that great, but there was circumstances that made it more difficult for him.
I think
So yeah,
I think there's like the one reason I'm looking at, and it's something that I think is that Paris joined, and then the issue was that Paris joined in a team that had I don't say that like a dysfunctional jungler, but they didn't really have a good jungler. Because they started the season with 113, and 113 didn't really live up to it. Like did pretty good, but like you always want jungle and the support synergy to be good, and then suddenly switching 113 out for Bukada, who's necessarily not bad player, because I don't think Bukada is bad, because otherwise people wouldn't put money on him. But the issue is Bukada doesn't really have the experience needed to fight against, because it's not usually about jungle versus jungle, it's jungle support versus jungle support. And so like if none of the two, Bukada and Paris, don't really have much experience in leading, in being the one to lead that, then you're going to have a dysfunctional team, because other teams, like I just remember like G2 when Yaika was brought in, they had Mickey X. So like whenever the like situations where you say, oh, what should I do, like what shouldn't I do, there's always going to be like the counterpart on the other side telling you kind of what they think they want to do, and all that you all what's your main job is going to be kind of to adjust to them, because they have more experience, they've seen more scenarios played out in a certain way. And so when you have both players that don't really have that experience, I think it's going to impact them both. And so I think that's why Bukada didn't really show us much, and even Paris, who technically was going to be one of the stronger supports coming from the ERLs, didn't really show up to the level. So like my question is, if Paris has the experience, he has gotten a bit of experience this season. Will he be able to be? Will he be the one to lead Village, or will Village really come in as a clear jungler with clear ideas, and he wants to dictate how Paris plays, and vice versa? I think that dynamic is going to really decide whether Navi will be able to jump from being a mid pack team to a top team.
yeah, for sure, makes sense. Let's move on to a very good one, SK Gaming,
I
which
still don't know, man. Like I still don't know. Like I don't want to rate them so harshly. Like I wouldn't have rated them so harshly, to be honest.
I like it's
Um,
one. Yeah, this is I feel like the biggest one where you need to see them play to have any idea if this could end up being good or not. Ethan's giving them a 3 out of 10, and just to clarify the roster: Wonder, Skeens, Leader, Yoppa, Mickey X, and Owner as the head coach. And obviously this was like
like
the one that was rumored that it was basically let Mickey X join and bring his mates was the
yeah,
construction
but like
process.
I trust Mickey X to be like good at discerning players. Um, or like at least they'll find a way to play together. Hopefully that will be enough to just push them through out of the bottom team, or like the bottom two teams. um I'm not really sure. It's like I don't think Wunder is that bad. I
Yeah,
still think, regardless of what happened with T Heretics and how he was, I don't think he is one of the worst top laners in the league. I don't even think leader is one of the worst mids if put into a comfortable position. Like my issue, my question with leader is how much will he be able to be the player I would assume like Miki and SK wants him to be on a consistent basis. Because we always said like how championship like how his champion build is very like limited and he's probably going to be more limited than the other players, but like if the meta clicks then I don't think that he will be an issue either. Actually my biggest question is on jungler and AD because Skins already had opportunities to prove himself in the LEC if I'm not mistaken, like a couple of years ago. um No, wait, no, I'm trolling maybe. But I think like for a short stint on Vitality, I might be wrong.
Well, he was there
Um,
last year, wasn't he? Wasn't he playing for BDS last season? For BDS, for SK last year as well. Oh well, last summer.
yeah, exactly. Like he didn't really have, yeah, but he didn't really have much to prove. Like because like the SK team was kind of gone. I would assume like at the end of the year, like they didn't really care. Um, after all those roster changes they had to go through, but like even Jopa like I've heard of this guy for like 2
Oh, I might have lost you there.
some of the I see maybe someone mentioned him as one of the best potential prospects in the league.
Vitality
So
have
I'm just
looked at him, I think, as well, right? So,
yeah.
but
So
oh, go on. You're just dropping in and out a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
I was saying like I'm not really sure whether he can match the other ADC like
yeah,
ADCs. That's my biggest question mark.
yeah. I don't, I don't know what to think of this one as well. Really, like it's one where I think it like there is. I feel like a world where it could click, and it's certainly high risk. It's I don't know if it's high risk, high reward. It's high risk, reasonable reward. I feel like even then, like Wonder. I don't feel like Wonder is a bad pickup. Like I know, yeah, the Heretics was whatever. Like that's whole project didn't seem to work out very well for anybody. In fairness, but then also I think back to when he'd not played for like most of the year on Fnatic in his last year, and then they needed him for season finals, and he turned up and he was totally solid. Like so, I think the fact that he's not played for a little while, that it doesn't either like give me a red flag for Wonder specifically. I feel like he's shown that he can come back and get back in the groove. And I mean, he was always a player where like the joke always was that he didn't really practice League any more than he had to, and he just seemed to have this kind of natural ability to be able to jump back in and really easily pick things back up. So I'm not really worried about that. Yeah, the leader one is probably the bigger question mark of the two of Mickey's mates, where he came in, had his stint in the LEC before, albeit short-lived, and has had this stigma of his champion pool the whole time. But it doesn't really, it doesn't feel like that ever really changed. Like when it was first announced, I went and looked at like some of the stats from, like from his most recent tournaments, and it doesn't, he's still not really playing like what you'd consider all the normal stuff, and pretty much always like melee mids, which does put you in quite a bit of a hole in terms of drafting the things. I don't imagine that's gotten any easier with Fearless Draft either. So it's just it is a bit bizarre. Mickey X himself, at least, should be a solid piece as well, and maybe that's good for Yoppa coming in as a rookie ADC too. He gets to come in and play with the greatest ever European support, so that's not exactly too bad either. So no, I feel like it's not as obviously horrendous as it's kind of made out to be. I feel like there is easily a world where they're not like a terrible team. Just the fact they did that of like let Mickey come and bring his friends is just not the best look in terms of like GMing or off-season process in general. Also, SK has never been a team that goes out and makes massive moves either. Like they have always been a low spending team that does kind of go cautiously, doesn't try and take big swings to to get big finishes or anything. They kind of are like they're a team that's there to run as seems like a kind of a like a sensible sort of business where they're getting their like their revenue share or whatever. They're not often terrible either. Like especially when I think last year was a bit worse, but when they had a couple of years with Swiffer as head coach, he was kind of guiding them pretty safely again without getting any star names and stuff. So they've never exactly been a team that's making crazy moves anyway. So for them, I probably see that they're just this is a way they can kind of go for something, probably another one without spending that much either. Like I know when Wonder had played on Heretics, like the rumors were that Heretics lineup, they were like the trio of Yankos, Wonder, and Perks. I don't know if it was Yankos included in it, but pretty sure Wonder and Perks were rumored to have been on like the minimum salary, just because they obviously back in their heydays on G2, they probably made a fair chunk of change. So these days they're happy to kind of jump on a team together and don't need a massive paycheck for it. So I wouldn't be that surprised if SK's that's how they've kind of convinced Mickey, where he's had another massive team with Fnatic, it didn't work out, and they probably wouldn't have offered him a crazy salary, but they say like what we'll pay you this, but we'll let you be the leader of the project, and you can bring a couple of your recommendations in, and that can like help convince Wonder and Leader to come without massive salaries probably as well. And obviously Leader wouldn't have had exactly a million offers in the LEC too. So what I'm trying to say is I feel like it's probably a cheap roster anyway, which again has the opportunity for it to be better than we're kind of expecting it to. So in that sense, it could end up paying off and being a decent roster for presumably a cheap price as well. But yeah, it's a bizarre one for sure. It's definitely one that I'm still happy it's happened because it's interesting and it's one that you actually it makes you want to watch him and see actually how it works out. But yeah, let's crack
Definitely.
on. Team Heretics next, and Team Heretics lineup is Trace in top, Geo staying in mid. Then they've got Serin.
Jungle.
Oh, sorry, in jungle. Yeah. Then they've got Serin coming in mid, and then Ice joining as ADC. Stend is staying as support, and then Hedon is joining as head coach. I don't really know anything about Tracing and Serin. To be fair, I think Ice is a pretty decent pickup. He was good on BDS. Although I'm not sure it's like a massive. Well, I don't know. Wouldn't be a massive upgrade over Flakked, I don't feel. Maybe a slight upgrade. I don't know. What were your
Yeah, I
thoughts on
think
this one?
I would consider him like a side grade. The side grade that's best. Like Ice, like I don't think like having Flagged or Ice is going to mainly change the dynamics of the team, regardless of who, like regardless of how, like depending on how the other players are. I think I'm mainly looking at um Tracing and Serin as the the two guys from from the um from the ERLs. I'm not really sure. Like I actually haven't followed much about Serin. I know Tracing has been like pretty okay, but I even doubt he is going to be like a clear upgrade over uh Carlson initially. Because I don't think Carlson did that bad last year. Um, Obviously depending on the expectations that were set initially. Um, I still think it's interesting. I could potentially see this as one of the teams that will start a little bit on the slower end. But I think it's like I think it's very clear that Heretics are just trying to make um like give space to youngsters, and hopefully they'll I don't know, find their own Vladimir and stuff like that, with the chance of potentially then selling it to other teams, or um just trying to like foster their new megastar if the megastar shows up.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think like we'll see. I'm not expecting this team to be fighting for the top spots necessarily. But I might be wrong. Like
Yeah.
I don't really know much about like Seren, so if people say he's good, I would assume he's good. I just that whenever we talk about mid, like I'm thinking about all the mid laners in the LEC, and I think the like he looks quite packed,
Yeah.
right? Like this season.
Yeah.
So I'm
Definitely.
not even sure if he can really stand out.
Yeah. No, I get you. I think Hidon is an interesting one as coach as well. He's not someone that's he's not even the head coach that much like over the years.
Mm,
Like he'd done. I remember like he was a coach in the ERLs, and then I think he had like a few years of doing like being more like a streamer or like doing. You know, people do like one-to-one coaching and stuff, not like a necessarily like in an esports sense of leading teams until. So I was just looking at his Wikipedia, like 2021, 2022, he wasn't coaching, I don't think at all. And then he joined Ruddy in the NLC, and then mid-season got the XL job when XL, remember they built like sort of a super team, but then they were just like completely
yeah,
terrible for two splits, and then they brought him on mid-season and they ended up in summer finishing second. Um, and then after that, he's stuck with them for just for winter the next year, so winter 2024. Left and then has not coached again since that either. So he's got this kind of weird career where, um, yeah, he's kind of jumping in and out of coaching a bit. And the one stint that he got in tier one took this massively underperforming team and eventually got him second place, which is pretty good on the resume as well. So, um, yeah, it's really interesting on that. So that's like a big thing as well is, this is kind of goes to conversation of when you try and rate a coach and how difficult it can be to kind of understand what the impact has been, outside of
hmm
like maybe drafts is like the one obvious thing that you can actually see. But even then, there can be limitations with their players and whatnot. But then the other time that you can see a clear impact of a coach is when players improve dramatically, or when the results improve dramatically, or they go dramatically the other way, and then you've got a kind of a decent idea that the coach has probably had some impact. So the fact that he could do that with Excel, would have been a clear impact there, that he's come in and suddenly can get the best out of certain players that previous coaches hadn't. And that probably bodes well for bringing in rookies, I imagine. So this Heretics lineup, like on its face, doesn't look like you'd expect that much of it. Maybe like a playoffs, getting in playoffs would probably be like I feel acceptable. Like a top 6 finish, top 5 or so would be good for that roster, on paper. And then again, you've got this coach that has a proven record of improving people. Maybe that's kind of the piece they need to actually be able to take this and exceed what everyone is expecting of them. So we'll see on that one. After that is Team BDS, aka Shifters, who have got Rooster and Bukada and Nuke are all staying, and then the bot lane is changing. So they've got Paddock and Trimby joining, and Striker stays as the coach as well. I think Trimby's a good one. It's always seemed odd
yes,
when
definitely.
Trimby didn't get a place in the LEC and went off to Brazil last year. So I'm glad that he's back for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know about the rest. I don't know anything about Paddock. Yeah, I'm guessing
Like
that's
I'm not
Euros,
really
right?
sure about the rating. Like I don't think I think actually Tribute was pretty good.
Yeah,
I could argue like Paris last year was definitely worse than Trimby last year. Like this season, I mean, this past season, and so I think like I definitely consider Trimby as a clear upgrade over Paris based on current form. Um, and like it was clear that even like Trimby when he was on VKS, like even when talking to him at Worlds, it looked like he really knew what was going on. Most scenarios, like what he wanted to do, he was be very messy in terms of calls, comms calls, I think. But then his game view, like his idea of the game was very clear. Um, so I'm definitely interested. I think like Paddock and Nice, you could argue that Paddock would probably be a little bit on the like would be a little bit worse initially, but I think there's like potential for the upside, and you're obviously one to the like you're obviously looking at the like how the trajectory this guy can go, and I think it's actually higher than the BDS lineup that we had last year. So I don't know. I would have probably given like BDS like a 6, even though we could probably like 6.5. Um, it's just that it looks. I'm fairly confident like this BDS lineup could be a little bit better. I think like last year, like this past year, just the whole team really fell apart. Like it didn't really look like they just kept staying to what they always been good at, which is we just play a little bit slower and try to potentially win games through team fights. We didn't really see an evolution of that, so I'm really um excited to see whether Trimby can change that, because I think it will still be decided by jungle and support overall. And if with Bukata staying, and if people say Bukata is as good as he is, I would probably like think that Trimby could be a good
Yeah, it probably help get
addition to
more out of
make.
Bukada to have a like
Yes,
a
exactly.
veteran known support.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially because like if you think about it, like Trimby played for VKS for only like a split, and this guy wasn't that bad either. It's just that he probably didn't land a good offer that he really wanted to. Like he was playing, like he just keep like uh I'm sorry, like no, I'm sorry. On VKS he played the whole entire season, but like he it's not like he was playing that bad on when he was on the LEC before that.
Yeah.
I don't think he was
No,
probably one of
I
the
feel
worst.
like it was
Probably that he didn't
surprising
really
that he was
find a
out.
good team.
Yeah.
Like he probably didn't find a really good team, and he thought that probably playing for other regions with a higher chance of competing internationally was probably the better choice. And I think in the end it played out because VKS went to Worlds.
Yeah. Sense. Um, and what was the trade back in the day? I remember when didn't he get traded for like who? No, am I thinking of the right person? When Rogue traded him for somebody, did that happen, or am I making that up? I feel like there was some
uh,
like crazy.
with Koi,
In my head I had it as Fnatic. Was it that Rogue traded Advian for somebody, or am I thinking of a different team? I don't know. I might be making shit up.
I remember Advian from the XL days.
Yeah, or maybe it was Excel. I remember there being like wasn't there a trade once with Advian and Trimby where they swapped teams and it was like completely bizarre because one of them like clearly came off worse. Um, I swear it was. Yeah, so from LEC, from 2023
Yeah,
spring,
I think it is.
the f-
I think it is. I think you're having a. Uh,
the 2023 spring
I think
Fnatic
it's
had
that one.
Advian,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
2023 summer they had Trimby, and yeah, who did they? And it was from Rogue, I
Yes, I
swear,
think it's. Yeah, it's that one. Yes. It
and
was
it was just
super
like
bizarre as well.
yeah, the most bonkers trade imaginable. Although I don't know. So, or maybe it was with Koi. I don't know. I'm chatting shit, I think. Anyway, oh yeah. I'm being stupid. It's when Rogue were Koi. I'm forgetting that
Yeah.
they were the same org. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. Weird one that. Anyway. BDS. Yeah. 4.5 is harsh. Probably about a 6 or so does make sense. I think. Like they're not like making crazy moves, but the things they've changed, you can see how that could upgrade, and the pieces that have stayed, you can see how um it makes sense in ways to keep them. Plus, obviously, the other thing that we've not mentioned yet that comes into play when making these decisions is who's under contract already. Like, if you've got people under contract still for the next year, it's not always an easy decision to cut them because you either got to try and find someone that will take them and take the salary off your hands, or if you don't, you've got to pay the salary and you're paying for a player that's not there. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's worth thinking on that aspect as well. Um, okay, Vitality. 6 out of 10 we've got from Ethan. And the Vitality lineup
Fair.
is Naknako, Linsus, Humanoid, Kazi, Fleshy. So the change, obviously, Humanoid in mid. And it's now been confirmed that Pad is the head coach, which I wasn't lying when I said there's an interview waiting to come out, but we're basically waiting on the rest of the roster to actually be confirmed, or the alleged roster to be confirmed before that can come out. But anyway, so 6 out of 10. I think that's probably fair. Um, Yeah, because again, I mean, the change of humanoid. There's so many changes off season where they could be really good and they could be really bland and not that good as well. So like humanoid feels like one that it's like a Vladdy situation. You know, the stock wasn't that high anymore, but
Hmm.
you can see how teams are willing to take the risk because if you can get the best out of him, then again he's one of the best players in the league. And from from one snippet that actually no, I shouldn't say it because it's not confirmed, but never mind. But I have it on good authority that the deal for humanoid is supposed to be a very good one, and from what someone has told me, it's probably the best deal anyone's had for humanoid. And obviously, remember he's been on this mega contract from Fnatic for years and years apparently as well. So supposedly he's taken a big pay cut to go for Vitality. Um, so getting him, he'd link back up with Pad and Kazi, um, and that's who he was with back in Mad Lions when he probably had his certainly when he had his most success in terms of silverware, and also just like with humanoid, his character or his behavior comes into question a lot, and I don't think it's you don't underestimate how much impact like who you're around can have on that. Like him and Kazi are like known to be very good friends, and even just that aspect, I know it's that it's like the old typical cliche people had of like don't import one Korean, you import two so that they can be friends. Like it's easy to say like, oh, just give this person, and he's going to be happy and he's going to play well. But I feel like that could genuinely have an impact here. And Pad as well, who presumably feels like he knows how to handle humanoid to get the best out of him. And I feel like it could be a good upgrade. And the rest of the pieces, I don't think. I think Kazi's fair enough, like definitely good to keep. And the rest have all like had like decent-ish performance. Like, I don't think there's anyone here that you like immediately would clearly cut, but clearly there's ones where they feel like they could upgrade if the pieces were available. There's not like a crazy. I mean, they've only changed one piece as well, so it's not. Either way, it's not like the most amazing roster. It's not the worst roster or the worst off season. Um, yeah, it still hinges on whether humanoid is a success or not, which we're not going to know for a little while. But
Yeah.
what were your reactions to it?
Uh, I think it's like positive. Like you said, I definitely see the risk. There's like always going to be the risk, but obviously there's going to be also the good side of things, the potential upside, and I think it's definitely worth taking it, especially compared. Like I think Vitality has a lot of pressure to deliver because they've been
Definitely.
trying to like go for mega rosters. Like they went for the mega rosters when Perks was there. Or like I guess like strong rosters, and it did really pan out. And they have been like mid pack at best for the couple of years. And when I think of the peak Vitality, that was the Vitality that went to Worlds and nearly upset everyone, and was fighting with Eastern teams. It just you just wish that you could potentially see them go back there. Um, I think this roster could potentially do it. I definitely see a more positive light because I think Nakanako has been outstanding for me among the rookies last year. Um, and I think that you having Kumano and Karsi could potentially be the strong duo that you need to get there. I'm just questioning whether, because usually we talk about how rosters always need some time to figure themselves out. I wonder whether this will be enough to see Vitality reach
Yeah.
top 3, top 4 territory.
I think the other interesting bit is Pad stepping up to be the head coach as well. Because it was like a public thing from what Mac had said last year about if results didn't improve, then I don't remember if he said he was out of a job or we were out of a job, but like clearly the way you see them had been a pair this whole time, where they come from Mad Lions. I think it was like 5 years now that they'd been working together. And so when you this expectation that no improvement in summer would mean that the coaching staff changes, which in summer there wasn't really much improvement. It just seemed obvious that both of them would be out. And so to see Pad eventually step up and get given the head coach role was a bit of a shock, I think. But yeah, it's really interesting to see now, because this is going to be his first time as a head coach in Tier 1. Back in the RL, he was head coach in like NLC and UK stuff for ages. And he was, a good head coach at that level. Obviously, it's like a completely different beast compared to doing it in Tier 1. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works. From one snippet of talking to him, which isn't a spoiler on the rest of the roster, that's still yet to be confirmed. But from what he says is that, I guess this is something that they all probably agreed with to an extent, is that where they've got these, especially the three kind of newer players of Nako, Linsus, and Fleshy, that they were kind of brought in as part of Mac and Pad's project. That even if it's fair enough you get rid of Mac because you feel like you need a change, it still to an extent makes sense that Pad is there as kind of some continuation for these players that joined to be in a project. If they had a new head coach suddenly for these three players, or a new head coach deciding the fate of these three players, then maybe it's a bit unfair on the players themselves as well. They've kind of been brought in only for something to change and completely shift what they'd been kind of promised, or how things had been sold to them. So in that sense, they've got that continuation for these players and for that project to continue. Could argue, I suppose, that there's no reason to continue the project if it weren't working, but we'll see. But yeah, I think 6 is totally fair then in that regard. And the last two then you've got, which Ethan didn't rate, but you've got KC Blue and Los Ratones obviously as the guest teams for the winter split, or like the winter cup sort of thing. We can have a quick look at them, although obviously they are like technically ERL rosters. But
there's also Giant X G2 and MCOY, by the way.
Oh shit! Oh yeah. Let's do those first. I don't know why they're NA. Is it because they've not changed?
No, we decided because they didn't make changes, so we didn't really
Right.
change rate their off season.
Cool.
That was our thought process.
Yeah.
Like if a team didn't make any roster change or player changes, we wouldn't rate them.
Yeah.
Because it's
Okay, fair
really
enough.
hard, to be honest.
Yeah. So the three of those have made no changes to players or coach. I think it makes sense. It certainly makes sense for G2, who are obviously the best team anyway. So if they ever make changes, it is always a bit risky, like it was last year when they swapped out Yike and Mickey. That was certainly a risk. And then especially to bring in Skumond, who was obviously was a rookie jungler, and I think the fact that he especially has looked so good, and especially has improved throughout the year as well, means that it's like a no-brainer to certainly keep him. Lebrov looked good as well. I think the only person they would probably change if they could is maybe Hans Summer, if they could get Kalist, which would be my early prediction for off-season next year when Kalist's contract is up. Assuming that K-Corp can't get him to re-sign, but you never know. But yeah, I think for G2, it makes sense to keep them together, especially that the team as a whole looked better throughout the year as well. So even though they made those changes and it looked risky, and they didn't win in winter and they didn't win in spring, the fact that by summer they did look way better. They were back to being the best Western team. They got into the knockouts at Worlds finally again. I think it's good building blocks to keep the roster. And I think for Koi as well, it probably makes sense. Koi is one where I feel like there's probably more obvious upgrades available. Super is probably the obvious one, but then it's also it's only worth making the upgrade if you can get an upgrade in.
Oh, you think so?
I feel like there's certainly a few better ADCs, I think, but it's just probably not the case that there's many that are available or are like are actual viable options for them to get.
I still think like MCOY did a pretty good overall job. It's just that the way MCOY plays is very like impulsive. Or I guess they create situations where they get overly like they lose composure, and that's when things start crumbling down. So I think it's more down to how the whole team plays and not necessarily like players' individual skills. I like you could argue that there are better ADCs out there compared to Supa, but at the same time, I don't think there are better ADCs out there that can match MKOI's playstyle currently. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fair enough. But again, I don't think it's even like obvious. There wouldn't have been obvious options for them. I think if they
Yes,
felt like
as
making
well.
changes. That's where I think it does make sense to stick them together. Um, yeah, Melzet I think is doing a good job kind of leading them too. Certainly the mid jungle and support are like very good pieces. I feel like there's like no way you change those. It would maybe be top an ADC like if the opportunity is there, and if it's not, I think it's perfectly fine to keep them. They won a title last year and finished second in summer. Like it's hardly like they're desperate to improve. I think so. Or hardly they're desperate to change the roster to improve in that sense. Obviously, they want to improve as a team. But yeah, it makes sense. The final one, Giant X, is one that's probably more of a question mark. Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one because it also this. I remember thinking back to pretty much this time last year when GX had got their roster together, and like expectations were massive. I feel like probably it must have been like in the early scrims they were really good because I feel like even a lot of the
Yeah.
LEC players were hyping them up too. And it's not like they were horrible, but I don't think they ever really sort of lived up to what people were hoping for. So the fact they made no changes to me was pretty surprising, really. Yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
Oof. Like I think it makes sense. I think the fact that it didn't end up. I think had they sold June
Jun.
to Fnatic, that would have been catastrophical. Honestly, I think it would have been potentially catastrophical. Just because of I rate June quite highly among the supports. And I think losing Noah, like if you split Noah and Jun together, like the split Noah and Jun, you're losing a lot of value on both. And I think even though they probably didn't really show up to how people were expecting them to be over the past year, especially in official matches, because I think like you were saying, like I think Giant X was doing pretty well in scrims. I still think the potential is there. Jackie's did a pretty good job. Love was definitely a welcome surprise. For myself, from my perspective. Um, and yeah, like I'm actually surprised that Yzma stayed among everything else, because like Yzma initially was brought in as a how do
A
you
bit
call
of a
it,
band aid.
replacement to closer.
Yeah,
But like Yzma actually came from a disastrous start of split with SK. And obviously he showed up much better, I think, in um over the over the two splits after. But at the same time, like Giant X was supposed to be a top tier team that always ended up being a mid pack team. So that wasn't ideal, I guess. Like Yzma didn't really raise the bar; he just kept the bar. Um, and I'm really wondering whether there's like more potential to be drawn out from the squad. I think there's probably going to be. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have stuck with these five guys. Um, but I'm just looking at how strong, like I was saying before, like I'm just looking at how stronger the mid pack team is. I'm not really sure Giant X can come out on top
yeah.
of those mid pack.
I guess maybe as well if you're looking to change jungler, like if you look at other junglers that moved. I mean, like who was even up for grabs? Like, well, no, that was the point. Literally, no jungler moved. So no team has a new
Yeah,
jungler except for like Na'Vi, but obviously it's a jungler that was on their org already. So that kind of limits your options, I guess. You have to try and get someone from ERL. It's like I guess the one person you try is like Yukino, but he was even though nobody moved, like he was like one of the most hyped up pieces in the off season. He's decided to stay in KC Blue for another year. So without him moving somewhere, like who do you get? Like you've got to take a risk on an ERL player, and I guess maybe they feel just slightly more comfortable sticking with Isma, and yeah, going with that. So it's a bit of like just an underwhelming one. That like they're probably not going to be horrendous, but you don't really expect them to be fighting for titles like was the expectation this time last year for them. Yeah, what do you make of KCB and Los Ratones then? So you got Los Ratones is sticking with their roster, with Yamato Cannon coming in as head coach, so that Cagel can. Well, I guess that was obviously the thing as well. How is that going to work if Cagel's co-streaming it and has to be on stage? Well, there you go. That's the answer. He's not head coaching. And then KC Blue is making some changes. So they've got Tao coming in as their top laner. Yukino is staying. Kamalu joins as their mid laner. And then Hazel joins as their ADC. Prime stays, sorry. No, Prime joins as support. I don't really know who like half of these players from ERL, so I'm not the best to speak on it really. Kamalu was like all right in NEC, but obviously the thing with these and Los Ratones to bear in mind is that they're not like they're going to be playing NEC for winter, but they're not necessarily built for the NEC because they'll be back in the LFL after. So yeah.
Like honestly, like for Los Ratones, I think I'm just excited to see how they perform. Like I don't really care about the result themselves. Like obviously you would want to see them get good results, but I'm just mainly questioning. I just want to see how the T2 and Tier 1 gap is, and if there's any gap.
Yeah,
is what I mean. And
I really
want
want
to see where
Nemesis.
the gap, like in what aspect are we talking? Like, could the gap be, or like is the gap between? Because there's so many things you could discuss on how Tier 1 teams are better than Tier 2 teams. You could start from fundamentals, you could go to team fighting, you could go to macro, you could go to just like mid-late game transition and stuff like that. There's so many aspects that you can look into. And I think like getting to see that is a welcome change, because people have been questioning this for like many years, and we don't really get to see that in other occasions. So I'm excited to see Los Ratones, a little bit less about KCB, because obviously they made the big roster changes, so I'm not expecting them to be strong.
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's good, an insane experience for them to get, for most of them who didn't really play in the, how do you say, in Tier 1 before. Like, Camille already played it, but like others probably haven't.
And what's happened as well is exactly what we said was one of the problems of doing it this way. You take the summer winner, or even just the winner over the year and put them in the LECs. So if they are obviously Los Ratones is a bit unique, but if it's a more like regular ERL team, then by the next year all the best players are going to be picked off, because that's the whole point of having a good team in the ERLs, is that you sell them off to the LEC.
Yes.
Obviously, I guess it's lucky that Yukino stayed, but Yukino could have easily gone, and then Mainta did go. Exakick is not in the LEC, but I know like there was certainly teams after him, and that could have easily ended up happening. So you could have had a scenario where like just the majority of the roster got picked off by other LEC teams, and then you have just got a regular ARL team in the league for seemingly no reason. One thing that interested me the other day actually, it was a clip of Cagel say, because when they just changed the rules where, or they can change the rules in the ERLs now where they don't have to have to follow the regional thing. Like you don't have to have like 2 or 3 players from the region. You can just have whoever you like. And it's up to the ERL specifically now to dictate those rules. So like if LFL wants, they don't have to have any import rules on the rest of Europe. And my first thought was that they've done that so that Los Ratones could maybe. Well, my expectation was they would do it so they can then go to the LFL, because they've done their year in the NLC, and it didn't seem logical for them to do it again because they won it all 3 times easily. And what's the point of just doing the same thing again? It's not really good content if you've really done it. So my thought was that they go to the LFL, Cagel has said now like that's not what's happening, and he kind of seemed to hint that there's some discussions happening about what they can do next, and if that doesn't pan out, then they'll probably just disband, or at least for now the roster would break up. My guess of the LFL was wrong, so for my future guesses, take it with a grain of salt. The only way I could imagine, the only thing I could think of then, if they don't want to go to the biggest ERL, and that's not worth their time, but they're still looking at some other project, would that not be that maybe there's talks of them staying in the LEC beyond winter? Like that was my initial thought on that. Otherwise, I was just trying to think like what could this project that we're in talks of doing, like what could it be that's worth their time and effort outside of being in tier 1, and then what other tier 1 is going to let that entire roster in? I don't know. Did you? I don't know if you saw that.
Honestly, no, I actually didn't. I just think that they're like in a really tough spot. Like we already had this discussion before on the podcast. Like many other partner teams that poured millions into it. It's not just about them not wanting Lost Ratones. It's more about the fact that other teams like had to spend like shit ton of money to get in. Like even like someone like Kameda who just did that a year before.
And also, when you let teams in for free, it obviously diminishes the value of the ones that are paid. So if you've paid for this thing, you kind of see it as like an asset. Like you've paid to have this spot, you own this spot, and if you're thinking long term, your long term vision isn't to sell off the spot. So that's not your main priority. But the fact is there, like you own this thing, and now the value is diminished. And if I want to sell it, I'm going to make a loss. And making those decisions is impacting that. Obviously, it's not Lost Ratones' fault, and the fact that they got let in for winter is not their fault, and it's not up to them to say no for the sake of the other teams. It is like the onus is totally on Riot. But you remember like the key line that also became a meme from the from the 2026 format announcement, where they officially said that Los Ratones and KCB were in. Plans may change. That was the thing that everyone was the big takeaway. Maybe there's already rumblings that plans may change to...
Plans may shift.
Oh, but that was one. Plans may shift. Say. Yeah, so maybe there's still discussions or hints like, let's see how winter goes, and if the teams soften up to it, maybe we'll get you in for spring. Things like that. It may not be that there's things that are agreed yet, or that things will definitely happen, but I don't know. I would be surprised. It's still the fact that Riot got them in for winter. Like clearly, Riot, for starters, Riot really would need this, really would want this team to stick together, because straight away it's become a massive team in Europe, like fan base wise.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know. I'd guess maybe it's probably in top 5 teams in terms of fan base. Maybe only behind like KC, Koi, and then G2 Fnatic. I wouldn't even be surprised if they got more fans than one or two of those at this point. So as an organisation, if the thing is we have a good project to do, or we disband the organisation, Riot would want them to stick together, I'm sure, because it's not just the fact that it's got a big following. Because you think if let's say tomorrow G2 dissolved, I'd imagine of the portion of their fans that are fans of League of Legends and would still watch is, I don't know actually. I don't know, but I'm just thinking like the fact that it's Cagel's team and he like leads the viewership on so many broadcasts and things. Like Riot really would want that team to stick together, to keep the hype going, to keep Cagel's stream going, to keep him popular, to keep him co-streaming to massive numbers. Not that it's all dependent on those parts, but it certainly helps that he's got this kind of whole force behind him and this whole project that keeps people interested. It's definitely Riot's interest to keep them together, and if the options are let them in the LEC or they disband, I'm sure Riot would want them in the LEC and get all those fans watching an LEC broadcast as well. So I don't know. I feel like it's just like in Riot's interest to try and get them in beyond just winter, and it's kind of up to Riot to scheme a way to do it and try the best not to cause even more disruption with the other teams. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know. I just feel like there's probably some discussions happening of them trying to get them in. Pure speculation. Like I have no info on that. It's just purely theory crafting. And again, it wouldn't even be not like it'd be Caedrel's fault if Riot lets him in. He'd be stupid to turn it down. There was just an interesting clip that I saw that made me think that there's probably stuff going on still. But anyway, that's my that's my conspiracy
I'm just thinking
theory.
like about what could be the potential solution. Like one thing I've been thinking about was what if you just give like I don't have any sets on this, I'm just like speculating. What if you let Lost Ratones in, but then you don't share them the money? So like all the franchise money or like potential revenues that get from adding Lost Ratones in get split out to the other teams.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense for that. Like if Lost Ratones gets awarded a slot that other people have paid, they don't get the the economical benefits from it. I think it would probably be the best solution.
Yeah.
If I'm purely from a money perspective, obviously it kind of depends on how much money we're talking about. Because I know that like share money apparently is not that high. Like it used to be higher, and it has been going down a little bit. Over the years. It has also happened that across other top tier leagues. I think it's also Valorant, I think, or something like that. So my question is it's pretty clear that people would don't want like Lost Ratones to be out of tier 1, but at the same time, how do you add them in a way that makes it happy for everyone? And based on what the things stand, all the other teams are not really that happy about
Yeah.
it because like
Because the fact that
it's
like
a money.
especially the way that they did it in winter, supposedly when like no current teams wanted it to happen. Obviously, I don't know what the contracts say in their like franchise
Yeah,
agreement, but the point is that you're part of the ownership of the league and you have a say in decisions. And I don't know at what point like the teams could be and would be willing to like even go like in legal procedures if Riot are doing stuff without their agreement when they're supposed to have a say in decisions. Obviously, again, I don't know the contracts, so maybe Riot can do it and it's in the contracts that they can. But I mean, that's literally the whole point of a franchise league. Even though franchising is shit, and it would have been if anyone could take a time machine back to 2019, I'm sure they would do so and rip up all the contracts and not let it happen. But once you're in it, and that's the point. These teams have paid millions and millions, and it's just nonsensical to let other teams in. They've kind of got away with it, saying it's like a temporary tournament. It's not it's not the same as the main splits later on, and that's kind of how they've managed to kind of subdue stuff. And to be from it made me laugh actually when it was announced, like the Reddit threads saying being like saying like, oh, these bloody whiny franchise owners, they just want to pull the ladder up behind them and not let anyone else in now that they're in. It's like it's not really the point. It's more the fact that they had to pay millions and millions and then Riot lets another team in for free, which does diminish the value of the spot that you've bought. So yeah, I don't know. It's one that we just have to wait and see, I guess. But I would, clearly it's in Riot's interest to get them in, so they'll be trying to figure out some way of doing it. I'm certain. The other option is Riot buys one of the slots back and has it as their own slot, and and they can do what they want with it. That's kind of fair enough. They certainly can't just like give out extra slots that didn't exist before. Anyway, we've got 8 minutes until I have to go. Is there any quick thing you want to chat?
I
Maybe the
was looking at the
WASD.
thing. Yeah, I was looking at it. That was one thing. The other one was Bwipo not getting
Oh
into
yeah,
the Triton
that
team.
came out yesterday, right?
That popped out of nowhere on my feed. I think I was actually questioning about it because like I know about veteran rules. Mm, I wasn't really sure whether that was going to be applied or not. Apparently it is.
So what is the
It's
veteran
probably
rule? I'm
going
not
to
sure I
change
even
it.
heard of that.
The veteran rule. It's basically like it, it forbids players from competing in lower competitions. had they played, I think, more than 50% of the time in like a set amount of splits, past splits, something like that.
Oh yeah,
So
so a
it
player
just
who has
avoids it.
participated in more than 50% of eligible matches in a professional league in the last
Yeah.
in 3 of the last 5
s-
splits.
s- So it's like if you're super like just imagine if Faker goes down to like LCKCL, you know, or goes
Yeah,
down
so
to
if you're
like
like if you've been a regular,
an open invitational team out of nowhere.
yeah, if you've been a
It's
regular in tier 1
it's
in like the last year and a half basically, then
yeah,
if you've been a starter for a year
it
and a half, you
just
can't play. That's a bit of a weird.
yeah, it just
It's an odd rule though. What
I
if
mean
you're a player that just doesn't get a spot in the LEC, and then you just can't play in the RLs either because of the rule?
yeah, but I mean I'll go by experience. So like when I was playing amateur leagues back in 20, was it 2022, I think, or 2021? Yeah, I think it was 2022. Um we used to have a tier 3 scene in Italy. That was basically full amateur, but like people that were playing like in ERLs, like Div 2, Division 2, in ERLs could potentially like come back to amateur league and play for like lands. So the tier 3 scene had like a live event in Milan at the end of the season at the Milan Games Week. And so people would like play around the veteran rule to get themselves downgraded so then they can play in super strong teams that didn't really were like they could play around this rule and then shit stomp everyone um in like on the way on the qualification on the qualifiers and then go and play the LAN for free because obviously like the LAN would be covered by the tournament organizers. You would have like the super fancy hotel near the gaming like Comic-Con. Basically it was like a Comic-Con thingy, like the game festival. So people were like abusing this rule consistently. So I think like Riot used to do that because it would have been like a really easy way for people competing in set amount of leagues, like in clearly stronger leagues, to just like go and play with, you know, like diamond players and like low master players. You would have like high GMs and even challengers playing with that, and it's obviously not going to be good
Yeah.
for both. So like I'm not really sure whether that was added as well to tier 1 to avoid people getting
I guess
uh
it makes sense for like amateur things. I feel like it's, especially for like LFL, LFL that basically is like LEC, where it's like the good ERL players plus the players that drop from LEC pretty much would all go to LFL now. It kind of feels
yeah.
weird to have it there. So actually, I missed this part as well. So you can have 2 players with like that check off this veteran rule, but you can't have more than 2. So the problem with Trayton's team for the LFL was it had Adam, Bwipo, and Targamas who both triggered it. So they had to get rid of one, and they got rid of Bwipo. But yeah, I don't know. I get it for things like what you're saying. Like that makes sense. But yeah, for like the LFL that basically is a professional league, or that is a professional league, there it does feel a little bit odd because I don't know. I guess it probably is not something that comes into it that much. But if you imagine like the LEC teams make loads of changes and there's like a ton of LEC reject players, and then they miss out on a spot because there's just this rule that forces teams to not pick up too many of them. Also, I guess it's probably, I feel like it's probably not that likely that this even comes into effect for the most part. And I guess the only reason a roster this strong could happen in the RLs is because it's like a temporary team, for this one like invitational event. I don't imagine there's an ERL team that could genuinely afford to build the roster and keep it for a full year or have the expectation to do so. Poor Bwipo though, I guess. no tier 1 spot and they can't play in the LFL either now. But yeah.
Actually was excited to see him play jungle, to be
Yeah,
honest.
same. Bit of a shame. That's about all.
But yeah, whilst
Oh,
the
go on. Go. You've got a minute and a half.
are we able to fit? It's super weird, I must say. It's like it's so weird to play around it. Like I played 3 games, it was crazy. Like I still had like my mental controls, like my muscle memory was still allowing me to play with like the QWSD. So like all the Q and W are basically placed on shift, left shift, and the right click of the mouse. It's like it makes sense in a few champions. It doesn't really make sense in others. Like I couldn't really like. I was playing Malphite and I was trying to like do W. Like I was trying to like flash in and then like flash alt, and like I had some really like interaction where like my cursor, like my movement wouldn't really match, and I would like wouldn't flash right into the players, like into the enemies. I would fly a flash outside of it, like slightly outside of it. So I think it's like there are some. It could make it easier for some non traditional like users, like new players who come in that are used to the WSD scheme. But I think there's going to be some champions that are going to be super hard to
Yeah.
master with this one.
And jungle just looked weird as well, like doing the most efficient jungle pathing. Like you could only move
Yeah, I
in
mean,
like
I've
16
stuck
directions when
to
there's only.
ARAM for now. I've
Yeah,
stuck to like a couple of matches on ARAM.
yeah,
I'm
that makes
probably still
sense.
sticking to a couple of matches of ARAM just because I want to see how many champions I can get that feel with on that. But
Yeah,
it's being very weird, I must say.
imagine. Um, well, I've got to jump off, so I guess we'll have to wrap it up there. Thanks for your time, Davide. Thanks for actually waking up early in the morning, not like somebody else that's not here.
Appreciate
Well, I
it.
guess he did wake up, but anyway. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week, and thank you for listening.